There are rhythms that are in accord and rhythms that are in discord. Your job as a strategist is, in any arena, is to understand which rhythm is currently operating and either move with it or disrupt it. Friends and grasshoppers, this is 146 of the Formless Podcast with Tyler, the superhuman, and me, Dustin. And today we've got a returning guest, Mr. Scott Halsey. Everything blew up since the last time you came, so we thought we'd try and recreate some of that old magic.
Cool. All right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're in Scott's school again right now, recording, and you just got done teaching a youth class or something like that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. This is the time of day when there's a lot of stuff going on. There's private lessons and group lessons and everything's happening at once. So yeah, we kind of moved back in the back. So you'll still hear some classes going on in the background, but hopefully it'll be kind of a cool sound and not
it will be disruptive. So, yeah. It'll be just like every other Monday at class. Yeah. Or good. Tuesday. Excuse me, it's Tuesday.
And it was nice. We walked in and we saw, all the kids running around and just how packed it was here. And, last time we were here and we recorded, I think in the afternoon, so no one was here.
Right.
But then we showed up here tonight and it's like, wow, you have a lot of students. That's rad.
This is the time of day that things are going on. And so you can come in, people will come in at, 2:00 and go, wow, it's really quiet in here. Yeah, it is. And I enjoy it while it's quiet because at 3:00, it's going to be crazy. Yeah. Which I enjoy, but you just need the balance.
Absolutely. You can't have it full throttle all the time. You just burn out. One of the things we wanted to talk about was the tournament scene and how if you live in Shasta County or even Tehama County or
Northern
California, and you belong in a martial arts school, you've no doubt heard about your tournaments that you put on. What, 3 times a year?
Yeah, we do 3 a year.
And you were saying before we started, 40 years of tournaments?
Yeah, this month marks 40 years ago that Phil Streeter and I started this school together. So yeah, We've been running tournaments just about as long. And so, yeah.
And that was like always part of the game plan for you when you opened the school? Or was that something that was like, hey, here's an idea and let's...
Yeah, no, I think it was part of the game plan. It was, to propagate the sport and get people to... I don't know. I know as my experience as a kid, I started Taekwondo when I was 4 or 5, and I started Kempo when I was 8. And when I was 8, and that's when I started doing tournaments. I remember going to my first tournament up in Medford, Oregon. It was a Bob Barrow school, and Bob Barrow ended up selling his school to Chip Wright. If you guys know who Chip Wright is up in Medford, and he was Chuck Norris's stunt double. So every time, whenever you watch Walker, Texas Ranger, and Chuck Norris is kicking high, it's not Chuck Norris, it's Chip Wright.
Okay.
So Chip no longer has the school. He's sold it, but that was back when that was that group. So I went up there like 8 years old, went to a tournament. That was my first tournament. I think I got second in fighting. And so I just always enjoyed competing, just the excitement of it. I was pretty good at it, so if winning is kind of fun, I'm a terrible loser. I try to hide that. I do the best to hold it all inside when I lose.
I think that's every martial artist's deep secret.
Yeah.
Like, we're all like, nobody wants to lose,
right?
Well, that's like years ago. Again, being a kid, I remember watching some of the Mike Tyson fights, and I don't mean to say Mike Tyson isn't a great boxer. Of course he is.
Yeah.
But there were a few I think that some of the guys threw, and the way that I could tell that the guy threw the fight, he'd be like, Mike Tyson's the greatest fighter ever. He's so awesome. I'm like, no fighter ever says that anytime. Doesn't matter if you got knocked out. You wake up and go, I was robbed. All fighters,
I'm good. Let's go.
All fighters are like, no. So if you're really a fighter, it doesn't matter how bad you lost. You're like, I hate it.
Let's go one more round.
Yeah. No. Bad call or something. Yeah.
It didn't hurt.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed competing as a kid. And then we started the tournaments. In Chico, Pat Haley, when he was first starting his school down there, he started putting on tournaments. And he had a pretty large tournament, and I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about how to run my business from him, how to teach people, and I learned also the tournament scene from on how to run tournaments. So
it's got to be a steep learning curve.
It is, I'm trying to say, it's difficult because there's a lot of balls in the air at one time. You want to put on a good tournament. You want people to have a good time. You want people to learn, and you want people to behave themselves. And there's
a lot to juggle.
There's a lot to juggle. And for years, sometimes the behaving themselves can be difficult, trying to get people to toe that line. That doesn't happen anymore. Our tournaments are well run and everybody's very respectful, so we don't necessarily have that issue anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just a lot of balls in the air. Definitely.
For sure. Yeah. I was at the tournament this last Saturday for a little bit. Yeah. And my plan was to talk to you and just say, hey, but every time I looked at you, you were running from one place to the next, or you had a microphone in your hand. And I'm like, that guy doesn't need any more trouble than he's already got. So I just kind of waved when I saw you, and that was good. But
that's kind of what you do is you put the fire out. Where's the fire? Yeah. Where's the next fire gonna be? That kind of thing. So that's people ask, are you gonna judge? I'm like, no, I've got to arbitrate and run around and make sure everything's running smoothly, and
make sure there's kids in the right spot. Make sure there's adults in the right spot.
Right. Make sure judges know what they're doing, stuff, everything. So
I remember the first tournament that I went to was one of your tournaments. And when I started with Sensei Court, my teacher, or our teacher, I think it was back in 2017, 2016, something like that. I went to one, and I was really nervous, to go, and it was my first time competing. And I remember the week leading up to it, I was like, man, and then I was just really nervous and kind of started coming up with excuses not to go. Right.
Yeah.
But the day rolled around and I was like, no, our whole school's going, and ended up showing up and having a great time. And I still remember I've got videos of it, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to keep going back and doing this. It was a really good atmosphere. Family friendly. Obviously you've got, what's the youngest you have with kids competing?
We have a 5 and under division. I think there's this year, I don't know if we had any 3-year-olds, but we definitely had some 4-year-olds and some 5-year-olds that were in there. So they get younger and younger. So I mean, that nervousness thing never goes away. I always tell people, if you're not nervous, you either are lying or you don't care.
Or you have a psychological issue of some sort.
Something, because a couple of years ago, I went to a tournament in Portland and competed, and I feel comfortable doing kata or forms pretty much because I know I'm going to be all right. Although I had just gotten over being sick. I'd had a fever and a couple of times, but I thought, I'm okay. And I got out there, I hit my first stance, and my legs felt like they were just going to buckle under me. I was like, oh no. And that was like at the beginning of the form.
And you have to
I got to get the whole thing. And if you know, Kempo forms are pretty long. So I made it through. But that was, so maybe I was overconfident of that. But fighting, I was like, wow, I haven't fought anybody for a while in a tournament situation. Nobody knows me here. I'm definitely not the homeboy here. I just
You're the away team.
I hope I don't get beat 20-0. You know what I mean? I just don't want to get I don't want to get destroyed.
Right.
I don't want to get destroyed. So, but we ended up me and the local guy went back and forth, and was like, he ended up winning by a point, but it was great. Of course, I got robbed, but it was great. And the tournament promoter says, that was an awesome fight. They just put a clinic on for you. So it was like, but I'm just getting back at, we're all nervous whenever you compete. Some of us are going to go to Boston to an international tournament this summer.
How
and
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, but when I get there, I'm going to be nervous. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that never goes away. But that's part of why it's important to me to compete, because, the only way we have as teachers to put you under pressure is to put you into competition or to test you. And, because everybody's a rock star in the dojo in front of a mirror where they're comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
And so
you get in that environment that you don't know exactly what's next.
Yeah. So if you're nervous and scared, now what? Now you got to compete. You can maybe nervous, scared, and tired. You got to do all of those. You have to compete after you've fought a couple of times, because that guy you're fighting on the street isn't going to go, hey, time out. Okay, we'll give you a breather.
That's one of the funniest things I have to deal with like teaching the kids and running classes. And like, wait a minute, like just because you're tired or you don't feel good or you can't pay attention or, any myriad of excuses doesn't mean the bad guy. I always use the acronym, the bad guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Just that bad guy's doesn't care. That's why they're a bad guy.
Yeah, right. They don't care.
So.
Right. Yeah. It's like trying to teach my students when they're sparring. And unfortunately, these days, not everybody has to spar because a lot of kids, it's really hard for them. This new generation's having a rough time with that. But my advanced students, they have to fight. That's fighter. Somebody one time said, painters paint, sculptors sculpt, swimmers swim, fighters fight. So you got to fight at that level. And we kind of jokingly say, because you'll have kids, punching somebody in the shoulder, and I'll go, what will a bully do if you punch him in the shoulder? And my student will say, they'll laugh at you and punch you in the nose. I said, yep.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
If we're talking self-defense, punching them in the shoulder is not going to do you any good. So
not a good target. Not a good target.
Not going to cut the mustard.
Yeah. So that's why competition was so important for me, as not as my own, but also for my students, so that they get that, and all of my black belts, advanced people, of course, have competed, and they've just been, again, I don't care if you win or lose, really, just that you got out there and you did it.
Yeah.
You had the courage to go out and do it, and try to be well-rounded. Some people, and I'm not talking bad about systems that don't do forms, but I want my, to do kata, because that shows the form, understand the system, the self-defense of it, and then if you fight, that's what do I say?
You're putting it into action.
Yeah, you're putting it into action. But of course, there's no such thing as real sport fighting. I don't care if it's MMA. What happens in MMA when somebody gets poked in the eye? Time out. What happens if they kick you in the groin? Time out. Yeah, so there's no such thing as realistic sport fighting. So even if you're really good at fighting,
there's still rules. There's still sportsmanship. Yeah. There's still... There's a medic.
Right.
There's a cut man.
So to me, if you can do both and you're well-rounded, I'd rather have somebody that, goes to every tournament, loses in forms, and maybe gets second in fighting, at least, but instead of winning fighting every single time or winning forms every single time.
Right.
Be well-rounded. That's all.
Well, and it goes like what you said. You go to a tournament, right? And of course you're going to be nervous, right? Even the most seasoned people like you go to a tournament and you're still feeling it, right?
Right.
And so, like, the way I like to think about it, right, is it's like, did you show up? Did you show up and overcome that, and just step out there? I think we had one student, Dominic, that showed up to one of Scott's tournaments, and he didn't know any kata. He didn't, because for us, kata, we end up making up our own kata. But it's something you're supposed to do. And Blaine, our teacher, says, hey, go to the tournament and you need to do your kata. And so we had one student and named Dominic, and he showed up. He's like, and he didn't even have a kata because he wasn't at that level yet. And he goes, Sensei. He goes up to our teacher Blaine. He goes, Sensei, I don't have a kata. And Blaine's like, great, get out there and do set one. Or set two it was, our second set for whatever the rank he was at the time. And so Dominic went out there and just threw like front punch head in the air, front punch body. And he just did it, right? And he came off the floor, and this was at your tournament. Yeah. And he came off the floor, and I just high-fived him. I was like, good job, man. Like, good job. Like, you went out there, you didn't have a kata, but you went out there and you did it. You overcame it.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's why, all of our, especially the kids, every kid gets a medal. Okay, now some people would say, this stupid trophy generation, blah, blah, blah. Now, I didn't say they got first, second, or third place.
They got a medal.
They got out there, and I tell them that's important, because if you look around, there's kids from your class that are not here today.
Exactly.
You're here today. Well, you put out the work. You did it. You deserve that medal.
And, that's important, because it's hard. It's hard to step out on the mat for some people. And I'm going to reserve that comment. I was going to say something about students and parents, but I know I have a few people that listen, and I don't want to offend anybody. But it takes courage.
Yeah,
it's easy to sit on the sidelines and watch and judge.
Right.
But it's tough to get out there and do that in front of everyone.
Sure.
And
the pressure of the crowd, really can affect you, but it's overcoming that, right?
Right. Overcoming that fear. Yeah. Getting out there anyway.
Keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
Did you need to answer that phone?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm sorry that you heard it.
No, it's okay. I just, I know you're running a business
we're
and
good.
trying to get things done. One of the things, though, that I was kind of interested in is when you first started, like the first tournament you ran on your own, it's your show. Was that had to have been a pretty steep mountain to climb?
Yeah, you know. So I think
Because like you can't like call a hotline like an advice like, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah. Well, it's not. I think I felt confident in running it by that point because of with competing and with my mentors and I think I felt really good about running it. The scary part, especially you have a new school, you're a young guy, and you put out $5 or $6 grand to run a tournament,
and
you
you're
hope
out.
They show up. You hope you're like, God, I hope everybody shows up. And yeah, that's the scary, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm the only show in town, really, because you got to fork out thousands of dollars to put up a tournament, and you just hope everybody shows up. And we're established enough to where it's going to be okay. I don't have that pressure anymore, that fear.
And you got people coming from a ways away.
Yeah,
now.
we got some people from Oregon last time. We had
Reno,
Reno,
Vegas, I think it was, or Reno, one of those.
Reno, yep. And then we have some Auburn people from Sacramento area and stuff, and that's really cool because to us to drive to Sacramento is we just do that to go do something. People from Sacramento are like, I'm not driving more than a half an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because everything I need is right here. Yeah. Why would I go there?
Why would I go to Reading? It's like so for them to come all this way is really it's a compliment. That they come this far to do it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I'm feeling some of that pressure right now. We are putting on a seminar. We're flying a guy out from Colorado, me, and he's. In small circles, he's a known person, but like to the outside world, the casual, nobody knows who this guy is.
Right.
Super nice guy, really educated, good. But it's like I really feel like we're rolling the dice and putting our toes on the line there. So that was my personal like interest in this is like, how did that feel?
Yeah.
Like that had to have been.
Yeah, that's it. We put on seminars too, and it is. It's scary because you got to fly them out, got to pay them, take care of them while they're here, make them
hotel food,
And usually, we would take my teacher out, we'd take him on a fishing trip or something like that, and so it was fun, and I love the guy, but it was stressful. It was funny because after the weekend of the seminar, I always got sick. Always got a fever because I think burning the candles at both
stress
ends.
and
having fun and training and just not taking care of yourself that weekend.
And your body just like,
I'm done. Your body says you will lay down now.
I've done that. Living off like caffeine and donuts or whatever else you can grab just because you have to have something. So I totally can relate to that whole thing of like, are they going to show up?
Right.
Is anybody going to show up? Mm-hmm. And then, we just watched my family. We try and get together because everybody's growing up and going to college and moving away and doing their thing. And nobody's moved away yet, but they're all they're on the edge of that, So we try and get together and do something together as a family at least once a week. And the other night we watched Field of Dreams.
Uh-huh.
Great movie. I haven't seen
it
in
a good
years, but like
That's
the whole if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, and I didn't pick that. I didn't like drop that. And sometimes I'll put something in there because I have some ulterior motives. But that one just kind of came up naturally. We were watching it, and I'm like, all right, well maybe the universe is trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
But doesn't make that feeling go away.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So one of the things I had wanted to ask you about tournaments, right? So obviously our teacher is Sensei Court, and his teacher is Sensei Herb Blue. Herb Blue. Yeah. So he was telling me one time that he was at a tournament. I believe this is how the story goes. That he was at a tournament, and he was the head judge or I think he was the head judge in one of the Rings. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the long day. And so he was judging in a ring. I don't know what tournament it was, but I guess he made a call, or there was a, the 2/3 majority call was made for whatever, between two competitors. And one of the parents, or I think it was the parent or the teacher of one of the students, that had probably had the bad call made against him, came out and was like outside the ring, but he was like getting really upset and was like, and I remember her telling me, Sensei was telling me that he was like thinking like, oh man, don't step in this ring. And like it's not going to go good for you. Like what's going to be on if you're going to do this. And so I always think about that at tournaments, has anything like that happened? Like there's been heated things. Like, how do you handle those? Like,
again,
trying to talk them down,
Right. I think, again, I look at a lot of my career when I was younger, the way people acted then and the way they act towards me now. So back then,
you were a kid.
I was a kid. Yeah. I might have to, everything from, please, Mr. Such and Such, will you please pay your monthly bills? I know that I'm not your electric bill, but you're 2 weeks late, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of, that kind of stuff. I do remember in Chico one time that there was a father, the same exact situation you're talking about, and he started getting more irate, and he started coming into the ring, but at that point, all of us were friends. So the other guys, it's like suddenly it was like 5 versus you. So you know what I mean?
You're going to make a bad choice.
This is bad for you, right? Yeah. So that got that situation down. I can't think of another situation where it didn't just take a look or okay, you're dismissed. You can leave. Here's your money back. Don't come back. There's the door.
Oh. Yeah, like nobody's forcing you to be here.
Right, yeah. Exactly. One of the worst incidents I had was during COVID. When we did the tournament, everybody wore a mask. You don't have to come into the house.
Nope.
It was my house.
Yeah.
This is how we're running it. One gentleman was really irate, and he finally put the mask on, but it was like, I was about to send him out. We were about to go outside and here's your money back. I'm going to pull you out of here. Again, that's just how I was running my shop. So that's how it was.
Your house, your rules.
My house, my rules. Right?
That's it. I mean, that's it.
That's it.
Like,
At the time, that you don't need any other interventions and headaches from outside sources or 3-letter agencies.
But I haven't had a lot of other incidents like that. And like I said, now we don't get that at all. I get more and more people coming up to me and saying how much they enjoyed the tournament. One of the guys from Wairika, Mitch Claire's school, the father said to me, we come all the time. We love this tournament. You guys do a great job. So that's what we get more and more.
Well, they're well run.
Thanks.
And they're well run. They're organized. It is chaos. You have a mass of people and there's no, it's just like, well, where do we sit? Where do we go? Find a spot. There's plenty of room.
It's a gymnasium.
It's exactly. That's one of the questions I always get with newer students and like first timers. They're like, "Well, where are we going to sit? Where's our team?" And I'm like, "Well, you might be the only one there. It just depends.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
So make yourself comfortable."
And it's funny to me because those parents, those people have never been to other sporting events. Like, I want to tell them sometimes, my son wrestled all through high school. And I think the only thing more miserable than a wrestling tournament sounds like a swimming meet. Yeah. Those sound miserable also. It's like, wait. Happens in a few seconds, then it's over. And you wait. Yeah,
and you're in the sun.
Yeah, and you're there all day long. At our tournament, we started at 10, we were done at 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And that's the whole tournament. The parents were probably there for a few minutes, but they go, where should we sit? I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to call the event. I'll call and I'm going to see how many
you may be over here for an hour. You might be over there for an hour.
You ready to move around? There's plenty of bleachers. Sit down somewhere where it's coming. Yeah, just wait for me to tell you when to go. And even the students, sometimes I had this little brown belt girl. She knows better. She goes, they always come up to you. When is my event happening? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Depends on how long this event lasts. And when that's over, we'll call you.
Yeah.
But this girl said, before she could even get out of her mouth, I said, I don't know. Go sit down.
That's like we do a monthly test for everyone. And if you've, meet the criteria, you can show up on Friday, we'll test, and it never fails. When do I go? When's my turn? I don't know yet. I don't know how many people are going to be here today.
Right.
If there are 50 of them, be prepared to wait.
Yeah,
If there's 3, we're going to be out of here quick.
Well, and on that same note, like last night in class, you called people up that had gone to the tournament, and you say, hey, tell us about, you went to Scott Halsey's tournament. Yeah. Tell us, how did it go? How
was your experience? What did you learn?
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Yeah. Great. You won a medal or you didn't win. Okay. But what are you going to do for next time?
Yeah.
What did you take from that experience, and what did you learn from it? And
did you let this defeat you, or did you decide this is what I'm going to do?
I have yet to have anybody say, knock on wood, say that they weren't going to do it again, or that they had a bad experience. Most of them were like, I had fun. I had a good time. Good. I didn't win, but I know what to expect. A lot of it is they were too timid. Right. My personal feeling is they were just like,
well, it's like, I tell my beginners. So if you're a beginning division, means you've had less than a year's experience, right?
Right.
So and then I tell them, okay, so this is why you should compete quickly, as soon as you can. Don't wait. So number one is because when you've been in karate for a year, we put you in the intermediate division, whether you've ever been in a tournament or not.
Doesn't matter.
Who has the best chance of winning your beginning division is the person that's been in karate for 11 and a half months and has been to 2 or 3 tournaments.
Yeah.
That's who has, not that you could still beat them. I've had kids that practiced hard and worked hard and still beat that kid, but that's what you're doing. Get your experience,
Yeah.
When you're kind of at the beginning, you're the freshman, and then you'll be the senior, and then you'll go in the intermediate division, you'll be the freshman again. You just work your way up.
Get those feet wet and figure it out.
I always tell people the karate kid would have got killed. There's no way he's going to walk into a tournament after a few months of training. And all those kids are, that's kind of a joke. I don't know if you know that when you go to a tournament, you end up fighting who you're standing next to, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you the joke was wait till everybody lines up and go up to the guy with the cleanest, newest gi. He has the least amount of experience. So hopefully you'll win your first fight, get the butterflies out and go. And just on a funny note, I remember talking to a friend of mine, and we tell this same story. He said, my teacher told me to do that. He goes, so I got up and I looked around, and everybody started coming towards me. Like, oh no, I'm the guy.
I'm the freshman.
I'm that guy with the clean gi. Like,
go roll it in the dirt out in the parking lot.
Drag it behind your car. So, so it's about the experience, how much experience. Then you get in the black belt division, and maybe you've trained 4 or 5 years to get your black belt, but now you're competing against guys that have been training at least maybe twice that long.
When I got to the black, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
When I got to the black belt level, it was a whole different level.
Yeah.
Whole different level.
Whole nother ball game.
Whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember the student from he's one of the teachers, red-haired gentleman.
Joe Llewellyn?
Joe, yes.
Yeah.
So it was really funny. Joe said to me afterwards, after this tournament, he said, he goes, every tournament, I'm like, I think I might fight this time. I might do it. He goes, then I watched your son and Ryan Gayhart fight. He says, no way.
Yeah, he told me that. Yeah. Joe's a great guy.
He is.
He's going to be 60 this year.
That's great.
Yeah, his late 50s or
and he's like, he was telling me Monday, he's like, there's no way I'm going to have some 20-year-old punch me in the face. It's just not going to happen. Not right now. That's funny.
Yeah, he came up to us, I think it was last night, and he was just talking about how he was helping, I think he helped judge, right?
Yeah. He judged a few.
And he had a good time judging. That was another thing I always liked, about going to your tournaments is like at the beginning of it, right? You're like, okay, red, brown, and black belts, right? You have all the red, brown, and black belts, and you bring them all up, and you guys huddle up, and then you go over the scoring system and the points and disqualifying, and it's always like a really nice brief, And the first few times I did it, I'm like, okay, I heard this last time, and you keep hearing it enough to where you're like, okay, like, and it gets ingrained in you, know, and.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys at that meeting, it's nice because maybe I'll forget something. I think I heard 2 or 3 questions.
They're like,
came
hey,
up. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And so I guess I'm saying it feels like all of the judges and teachers have a vested interest in the tournament. They're and I tell them, I said, I'm not going to listen to the parents. You guys are the experts. So if a parent gets upset, oh well, too bad. You make the choice. You make the call. You're the judge. I'm not going to back them up. I'm going to back you up. So everybody has that vested interest.
Yeah. I had an experience in Little League when I was a kid. We had an umpire who, I don't know if he had a drinking problem. I don't know what, but he was like half asleep on the mound or in the behind home plate.
Yeah.
And just making calls. It was like, it seemed like he just closed his eyes and picked something randomly. And I remember the coach saying something about like, he's a human. He's going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
He's not a machine.
Right.
And that stuck with me. We lost the game. It didn't matter. But I try and emphasize that before the tournaments, like the week or two before, like, hey, if you're going to go to the tournament, the people that are going to judge you, they're people.
Yes.
And they have day jobs and they've got
No.
other things.
Yes.
They got their own issues that they're probably stressed about too, just like you are. So give them a little bit of grace.
Right.
They're not purposely out to get you
Right.
or anyone else.
No.
And there's 3 of them, and there's a good chance that you may know one of them. You might not know any of them.
Yeah.
But they're people.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always like. That's my 2 cents that I always try and add in. I always get 1 or 2 parents that are like, well, they did this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? I wasn't there. I didn't see it. That's my go-to.
Right.
I didn't see it. I don't know. But they're people. They make mistakes just like you and I do.
Right.
And it's hard to.
And some people, like it's, so here's one thing like about our tournaments is a little bit different. So I kind of run it like, the International Karate Championships, when Ed Parker started that in the late 60s.
The Long Beach
International.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where Bruce Lee was discovered
That's
and Chuck
famous.
Norris and all those guys. Right. And then there were other tournaments, and then there were leagues that started, but the Internationals was never part of a league.
It was a single event,
It was a
right?
single event, and it was just kind of like a feather in your hat, like your cap. Like I won that
competed,
tournament.
yeah.
I did this, and that was a big deal, So I've never really wanted to be part of a league or group of people to kind of tell me how to run my tournament,
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
And it's also been different when you watch like the contact level, so. For like in the beginning, like in the again 60s and stuff, before I ever came in, they were bare knuckled,
Yeah.
and they weren't technically allowed to hit the face, but it happened all the time, and it'd be like
We got 2 guys running at each other. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the guy be, hey Joe, you're bleeding. Can you continue? No, okay. Well, then the other guy wins. So it was just kind of like that. And when I came in, we were wearing hand gear. That was the beginning of starting to wear hand gear. And then they went to foot gear, and then there were some accidents where people fell on gym floors and hit their head. One guy, I think, died back east. I fell and hit my head when I was a kid on the gym floor and got knocked out. So the danger was not from getting hit; it was from falling and hitting your head.
Wow.
So so that knocked me out. So that was before headgear came in, and then we started wearing headgear. So and then the contact level over the years kind of went. I'm trying to say it got less and less. So I like to think that when I was a kid coming in the 80s, like you could still like hit them. Like it was like, okay,
Contact.
he got that. Oh, he got that.
Yeah, right.
When they're like holding their win.
But nobody went to the hospital. You know what I mean? Nobody was injured. It was just like, okay, I felt,
I felt that.
I felt that.
I felt that.
That. Yeah. You got it. I know you got it. But then it got to a point where you watch a lot of the other black belt leagues and stuff. And sometimes I watch stuff and I have no idea what they're calling for points. I look at it, I go, I just don't get it. And sometimes it really is like really reaching and overextended. So I kind of like to think that our tournament is still self-defense oriented. So I tell the judges, like, they have to sell it to you.
Yes.
So don't, if they touch or they kind of paw or whatever, but
That punch has to retract.
yeah, it's got to come back on the same line of entry. You know, you've got to just sell it to them. So if you look at it and go, if they hadn't controlled that, I don't mean pulling it, but Ed Parker used to say it's not pulling a punch, it's controlling it. If they didn't control that, they either would have ended the fight or pretty close to it, right? Yeah, good technique to a good target, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So again, I like to think we're kind of in the middle there, where there's still some decent contact made. But no, again, my other joke is that, after 40 years of running a school and putting on tournaments and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I paid for insurance, I wish somebody would get hurt just a little bit. so I get my money's worth. Not real bad.
Yeah.
Just, So again, there's less injuries in martial arts tournaments than there are in baseball or any of these other. So it's like, but just the idea, I think some people have this, just the idea of punching and kicking at you just freaks people out. So, but anyway, that's about our tournament. The contact level is something like, you still got to sell it, still got to put a little something on it. But
we're not trying to knock each other's teeth out.
Yeah, right. Everybody's got to go to work tomorrow.
Well, when I did I think it's your tournament has the red and brown belt, right? Is its own category?
Yeah.
Red and brown belt. Yeah. When I got to that category, man, and I know Alan Myrtle, when I was sparring one time and he was the judge, he says, yeah, back in my day, we used to call the red and brown belt category the blood and guts division. And I remember just doing the red as I was advancing through our arts, red and brown. And I just remember we were doing some pretty good contact, really selling it. And I like it. Looking back, I'm like, well, yeah, of course I want to do that.
Yeah, you were trying to prove yourself. Say, I can be a black belt too. That's what that division was all. That was a tough division.
I'm reading currently somebody's memoirs, some martial artist, and I'm not gonna. I've had some conversation with him, so I'm gonna hold that information back. But the book's really good. But he's talking about some of the old days in the late '60s, early '70s of just people getting their teeth literally knocked out and noses busted and things like that.
There's a funny video. So Elvis Presley sponsored a team with Benny Urquidez and guys that went to Europe, and you can look it up on YouTube. But when the commentator at one point says something like Benny Urquidez made the comment that he wanted to go to Europe and sell mouthpieces because all these guys didn't have teeth and he'd make a bunch of money on a mouthpiece,
Yeah. Benny Urquidez is awesome. I went to the Super Show, the last one they had in Vegas before they stopped doing them there, and he was supposed to be there. He had a table, but some event happened, and I was so that was the one guy I was like,
you wanted to
meet, shake his hand and say, hey.
He's a really nice guy. He's really nice and respectful. He and my instructor, Huck Planis, when Ed Parker tried to do the franchise thing, they were on a road crew together. So, Benny Urquidez taught the fighting and Huck taught the system. They did this road crew thing together.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was before Benny Urquidez went to Japan and did all the stuff that he did there. But we had him here one time for a seminar. And
No kidding.
Really?
Yeah. It was really nice. It was fun to talk to him. He talked about the first kickboxing fight. He was involved in the first kickboxing fight.
Yes, they consider him to be not the inventor, but the guy.
Yeah, and actually, I'm sorry. I meant to say Thai boxing. And he said nobody really talked to them about what was going to go down.
They didn't even speak the same language.
Yeah, so he just thought he was a boxer from Thailand. And he said the guy kicked me in the leg so hard. He said, I've never been hit that hard in my life. His leg just went numb. And so they just then eventually Benny flipped him, because he didn't, and then this riot breaks out in LA and this whole thing. Yeah. So it was fun to listen to his stories. It's always fun to listen to those guys tell their stories about things they did. And,
way back in the day.
Yeah. His brother was quite the boxer too.
Yeah. They were both good fighters from what I understand. Yeah.
Awesome.
So another thing I had a question for you, that you touched on it earlier. So there's been other schools that we've heard of within our art of Wu Ying Dao that they don't do, I don't think they do sparring. There's some school,
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're
okay.
Or I should say, they do when they do sparring. There's it's like you're pulling your punch 6 inches away from the face or something like that. Yeah. And I don't. I mean, if I ever had my own school, that wouldn't fly. You're going to be sparring.
Well, here's okay. It depends on. You wouldn't do that if you had another job. You know what I mean? So I'm finding myself a little bit that because the newer generation. I know every generation thinks the generation following them is weaker, and in some ways, I look at, my dad and grandparents' generation, those are some pretty tough dudes, they aged look how old they were when they were 50. They looked like they were really old now.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
So every generation. But looking at this generation, after 40 years of teaching, I've had to make some switches because between them and their parents and the way that they see the world and the way that they think, I've made it to where nobody has to really spar until blue belt. So I have, I've got
this
a lot of
nice buffer.
Yeah, buffer up to that point. And if you're here for entertainment, and that's really what you're doing, and then fine. And we'll do that until you hit this level. But then from blue up, it goes blue, green, brown, black. So I'm not going to have a brown belt that's never fought or competed. You know what I mean? I'm definitely not going to have a black belt. So
yeah.
So at that lower level, I've kind of I've had to compromise, and it's hard for me. It's very difficult because when I was a kid, I knew
it was different.
Well, yeah, but I knew I couldn't remember, but I knew I could spar. You know what I mean? Like if a bully was on me on the playground, I could throw a good reverse punch and hit him because I'd done that in the dojo before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So now go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so this was a battle with my wife when we first started because she had, again, I'm getting in hot water here later. In about 2 weeks, I'm going to be in trouble. But
better get her a good present.
Yeah, there were friends that will remain nameless for the sake of my life that were reading articles and sending her articles about CTE and about head injuries and about things like that. So she's like freaking out. And I go, babe, don't worry about it. We put helmets on. Yeah. We don't even punch in the face. The first class she goes to,
she got punched.
One of our kids gets slapped. Like, that's a freak accident. That doesn't happen every week. It's okay.
Of course it had to happen then, right?
Yeah,
when she was there. That's when it had to happen.
Yeah. But it's I think that, every generation had like the thing that was dangerous, right? My dad tells me the story when he was a kid. His doctor, when he was a little guy, his pediatrician smoked and his dentist smoked.
Everybody,
that was
probably they said it was good for you back then.
Exactly, or it helped them with their asthma or,
helped them with sleep, something. Yeah.
But, and then like the next generation, like, hey, that stuff's bad for you, and then it just kind of, every little thing, TV's bad for you. Now every person has a smartphone and it's glued 6 inches from their face at all times. The next generation's going to have something else that'll be
the thing
terrible for them. And as a school owner, there's a delicate balance there of keeping the customer happy and keeping the student engaged.
Yeah. And I think that also, I'm sorry to say, but with this generation of kids that's coming up, I've had to lower my standards in a lot of ways. Like, I'm just teaching them which direction is back, which direction is forward. Telling them, getting them to follow directions like, hey, run over and touch that wall. Literally, like, not just stand there and gaze at me, but like, go do that, go do this. Sit down, stand up, just like follow directions, pop, 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 pop. So, some kids are here for that. You know what I mean? And I've got a lot of autistic kids, and karate is really good for autistic kids. And I've got them all along. That's why they call it a spectrum. They're all over the spectrum. Yeah. But it's helped them. I don't know if autistic kids, they can't jump. They just have
don't have that coordination.
They don't have that coordination. But some of them here, we start teaching them how to do stuff like that. So they're getting more into their bodies. So I guess, for some students, I'm looking at, okay, we just need this and this and this. And I'm trying to improve your life with those things, right? With these basic things. And then maybe you'll get some other kids, okay, you're very athletic and you don't mind pain. So
we're going to put you over here.
Yeah, right. So you just have to look at everybody and figure out what everybody needs and try to give it to them. And
it's a constant adaptation of like the situation and the individual.
Yes.
And that makes you that just takes your teaching, it just really elevates it, right? I mean, it just or refines it even more. Right.
Well, I'd like to think, there's a lot of good jiu-jitsu schools out there, but a lot of the jiu-jitsu MMA guys are where we were 30 years ago. They're all about the toughest guy and who can break you and and that kind of stuff. And then, but I look at that and go, oh, that's where we were in the 80s or 90s. Like, okay, well, we're still tough, but there are these other higher level things that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, being around next week too is important.
Like you said.
Well, yeah, I'm 55. I can do just about anything I did when I was 25. Sometimes it hurts a little more the next morning, but
the recovery's a little longer.
Slower, yeah. But that's the real goal in the long run. Is not have your shoulder pulled out, and have all these issues, health issues. It's like, oh, what can I do when I'm 50? Can I still do like your Joe's still doing? He's almost 60. I got a student out there, Mark Pierce is 70 in his early 70s. So it's like
still doing it.
He's still going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the real goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Longevity.
Yeah.
Right. Longevity.
Yeah.
And, I've heard both things that, doing martial arts, I've heard two different theories. That one theory is doing martial arts extends your life. It can extend your life. And I've heard other theories that it says it shortens your life. Have you heard anything on that? I've always heard, I would think it extends your life. Like
I've never well, maybe people are stuck in that Bruce Lee curse thing. Maybe that's where they get that short thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't tell. And Ed Parker died, at a very young age. He wasn't quite 60, but he also didn't take care of himself. He was overweight and had gout and everything else, so he was, but if you look at the people that are living the lifestyle, Jun Ri is coming off the top.
Yeah.
There was a time when his body looked like he was in his 20s when he was 80, And so I think as long as you continue doing the training, there's no guarantee, right? I mean, you can
get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Right.
How long did Fidel Castro live and he smoked those cigars?
Cubans.
Right? I mean,
he never didn't have one going.
It's like you never, it's just there's no guarantee. But I would have to say, far and away, when I look around, the people that are still training, they're in great shape.
Great shape.
Yeah.
Well, that's like we did the last episode with you, and I think we were talking, and we're like, man, Scott's in like great shape. Like, I mean, you keep yourself like
trying,
you walk in and you look at you and you're like, yep, that guy's a karate teacher, type thing.
Well, there was and again, I love all my mentors, but there was an overweight Kempo thing going on there, and there still kind of is out there. So I have me and some of my friends were like, no fat Kempo, not for us, not for us, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to maintain that.
That's the goal. Just maintain. Don't. Absolutely. Okay. One last tournament question. Has anybody else come up around here and started throwing their own tournaments, or have you been the only guy for the last 40 years? I
think Al Myrtle tried one once. He did one at his school a long time ago. A guy named Doug Majors tried one. But as for around here, I think Mike, and I'm thinking, Mike Stevenson, his school, this tournament was probably in the 80s,
Yeah.
So I don't think there's been, and again, I think it's really just because it's a lot of hassle and it's expensive. And then sometimes a lot of people, get a lot of complaints. People don't like the way
you don't want to hear it.
You don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So we just learned, I think, my wife and I, Lisa, has been a rock with these tournaments, and she's helped me out a lot with these things. So the two of us, as a team, have always been like, well, I'm sorry that person didn't like that, but we gotta,
you got to take care of everyone else too.
Yeah, right. Or or owning up to a mistake. Lisa kind of made a mistake at the last tournament and apologized to the parent, and the parent was a little irate with her afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, but after that happened, another parent came up to us and talked. I think they heard what was going on and were like, we love your tournament, so
this was a great.
Yeah, it was a good. So, if you get one complaint out of 100 and 120 competitors, that's
you had
pretty
120 competitors.
We usually have somewhere between 100 and
Nice.
120. Yeah, I didn't actually count them yet, but something like that. Yeah. So you get one complaint, that's really okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can't make everyone happy.
No, you can't.
It's just the fact of the matter.
Back to life.
Yeah.
Now do you see do you think going forward your tournaments are going to grow? Or they're pretty consistent? I mean, do you the way the future of martial arts and everything
I'm not sure. Again I think it's hard to read. I want to say our tournaments have been where they are for a long time, like the numbers that we've been bringing in, and seen some schools fall off, some schools come up. It's really more about that. It's like who's
still around,
whose school is still doing well. You guys to support us. Tommy Cervania from the YMCA supports us. Vince Fignones from Klamath Falls. Not everybody comes to all 3 tournaments a year, but sometimes you see a different group and some mixed people, and the Benattis from Auburn. So I would say definitely like now the group is a little different than it was 10 years ago. Almerto School closed. Thinking of another school, Myron's School up in Alturas closed. So the demographic changes, but they're still kind of there. They're still coming in. So, and again, with the new generation, it's just be interesting to see how it goes. Hopefully, I don't know how many of, I'm Bob White, one of our other instructors, said, people will say, well, you can't force anybody to do anything. And he said, well, I'm a coach, so I force people to do stuff all the time. That's my job. So me and my wife and our family dynamic, we not quote unquote forced our kids to do a lot of stuff. We never said, hey, you want to go play baseball? We said, guess what? Baseball season's coming up. We're going to go play baseball. They're like, yay. So
it's all in how you present it.
How you present it and how you do it. Now, and there were times with karate when my kids hit their teenage years and my wife would drag them in here and crying, I hate you. Okay. But they left euphoric. They'd come in here hating all of us. Then leave going, I love Mr. Omura. I love Mr. It was so great.
This was fun.
Yeah, right. So it's all, I guess I had a lot of experience watching a lot of parents over the years and going, good idea, bad idea, good idea, bad idea. So, but I think that this generation of parents is having a really hard time, quote unquote, forcing kids to do anything that makes them uncomfortable. And pushing a kid out of their comfort zone is, I think, what I believe what you are to do as a parent and as a teacher.
If you don't want them 45 or 50 living at your house.
Right. Yeah. You'll go, why are they still here? Well, because they've never been forced to do anything else.
I mean, I exaggerate, but there is some truth that you got to make your kid do some things. And that's the scary thing as a parent. Oh, if this goes wrong, it's going to really blow up in my face.
Yeah, and it could go wrong. It could go wrong, but that's part of life. That's just, we have, I tell kids here, I can promise you 2 things. You will lose and you will fail. I promise that's going to happen. Whether it's here, any other sport, in life, I promise that's going to happen. Now, it all depends on you and your parents on how you handle that loss and that failure. Are you going to go, oh, I'm never going to do it again, or are you going to go,
but it takes that loss to really appreciate that win.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember as a kid going to a tournament at the California State Championships, and watching just for particular the forms. Like I didn't place in forms at all, but I remember looking at all the kids who did, and I thought, there's nothing those kids are doing that I can't do. I can incorporate that into what I did. I incorporate that into what I did, and then that helped me be a better competitor. Again, you can take a loss and let it crush you, or you can push on and move forward. And we all hit bumps in life, but that's the most important thing. You take a loss or a failure in the school or the tournament or whatever, and you go, hey,
I'm not going to do it that way again. I'll do it like this.
That didn't work. But
let's try something else. Mm-hmm.
Do you? I don't think we've ever had any of the kids from our school or anybody that went to the tournament and said, "Man, I wish I wouldn't have gone to that tournament." Yeah.
They
all came away and were like, "Man, that was fun. I was glad I did it." Right? I don't think.
No, I don't think I've ever had anybody do that. I've had tears.
Yes.
I've had laughter. I've had all the other emotions in there before, during, and after sometimes, but they've continued. I don't think that anybody's been like, oh, that's it. Oh,
well, and that's a safe place to have those emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's a safe place. You're in a safe zone of people around you. There's nobody there that's got their finger in your chest and yelling at you. In fact, that's what I tell my beginners. If you make a mistake, are the judges going to yell at you? No. Are they going to get mad at you? No. What are they going to do? Help you.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do. If you get up there to do your form and you freeze, they'll get up and do it with you, or do whatever,
or give you a tip or something.
I
had a conversation with some overly concerned parent once a while back, and they were concerned with getting their kid getting hit
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is probably the best place for them to be hit.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to hit them.
Yeah.
Like, not that we're beating people, but they're going to get hit. They're going to get punched. They're going to get kicked. They might get choked. They might get thrown. But if you think about it, where else would you rather that happen?
Right.
Like nowhere else on the planet other than in a school where they learn how to fall, where they learn how to like look out for that punch or kick or whatever that could be coming at them.
You have a teacher overseeing what's going on.
Not just some
playground somewhere. Right?
Where the teacher's talking on her phone
or
not even paying any attention. So I just that conversation just stuck out to me there for a minute. It's a delicate balance for sure.
So when I was a kid, you talk about like your wife dragging your son and daughter and kicking and screaming, right? So when I was a kid, my mom shoved me into karate, and this was when Herb Blue was teaching down at Anderson City Hall. And then for me, it was early 90s, right? I think it was for you early 90s as well.
Late 80s, early 90s, like right in there somewhere.
Right in there, yeah. And so my mom, she shoved me in, and I was a fight every time to get me to go. For whatever reason, as a kid, I didn't want to do it. I don't know, the discipline and having to listen to somebody, all those good things, right? That a kid needs. And so, but I ended up dropping out after like 2 or 3 months. I'd gotten my white belt in Wing Dao and just, fought my mom and just said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And she just gave it up. Right. But then here we are, here I was, 30 or 25 years later, something like that I got back then with Blaine. And my mom's like, yeah, I remember Blaine back then. He was like 12 or 13, and he was one of the up and coming instructors. And it's funny how it's like, the circle, the circle of life and how that comes, where I quit as a kid. Wish I never quit. Right. That was one of my biggest regrets as a kid was walking away from karate. But now, then I finished it and actually in the same art, which is kind of, funny enough. But have you had any of those experiences with kids at your school that started out young, in and out of the school? I'm sure you have something like that.
I've had them come in and out. I don't know if I can say that I had any of them make it to black belt. I've had them come, and that, especially most of them continue through. Like, and I do have some that like will quit at the teenage years, of course. Yeah. And then I always think about these kids and think, man, that kid, too bad. He really needed this. This was really good for him. But I never see him again. So I can't say, honestly, that's pretty impressive that you were able to come back and to do it. Because I don't think off the top of my head I can say that I've ever seen that. Like I said, maybe they came back, did it for a while, but never
not all the way through.
All the way to black belt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
But the ones that you've had that have been black belt, they've just been consistent. And
they've been it's been pretty consistent. And that's, again, when people say, oh, we're going to take a break, I'm like, oh, man, you're going to lose momentum. You got a 50-50 chance of coming back. You say, I'm going to take a break. To me, I hear I'm quitting.
Yep.
So that's, so it's like, okay. But because, again, you leave, you lose momentum, you forgot what you learned. Maybe the other people have moved on and now you're back. It's like.
Yeah, you're 2 steps back and everybody else has kept going.
I remember being in high school, I got my black belt. I was like 15 and they did an article on me in the newspaper. And I remember going by a couple of guys in the high school and they said, man, I saw that article in the paper. They said, if I could have been a black belt. And I kind of smiled, but in my mind I thought, no, you couldn't. You quit. You quit. You didn't have the drive. It's the drive.
When my oldest got his black belt, the middle son, Cole, he had stopped going. He was still going. He just wasn't participating. Right. He had no choice. He had to come with us because the entire family was going every twice, 3 times a week. But he'd sit there and read a book or talk to other people, and it was almost 2 years of doing this, and it killed me every week because I wanted to force him, but then I knew he'd hate it. I didn't want to so I was like, I'm going to offer it every week, twice a week. Sometimes 3 times a week. You have to come because we don't have a babysitter. So I'm sorry you have to be here, but I'm going to keep offering this. And none of that worked. And then his older brother gets his black belt. And the first thing, the car door's not even shut. We're going home and he's like, I could have done that. And the oldest one looked at him and I was so proud. I was just like, oh, because he goes, you don't even do class. Like, you can't do this. You don't even do class. The next Monday, his butt was in class.
Oh, good.
And it was like, I was so happy. Oh yeah. Because that brotherly rivalry, man. But that was like the greatest parenting moment I've ever experienced right there. Cause yeah. But, yeah, that's a fine line with kids. You know, they take a break. There's a good chance they're not going to come back.
Most likely it's game over.
It's game over. And it's unfortunate, you know?
Yeah. My wife had a real hard time with that as in the early days of like, my wife's a sweetheart. She falls in love with everybody. If she hears your name, you're great.
Yeah.
You know, she just loves everyone. And you know, you get people that come in and leave, and she falls in love with these people and they're not there anymore. Right. They went somewhere else, or they're doing something different. And she's just like, but you just kind of get used to it. Yeah. Like, it's a fine line for people that stick around.
Right. No, it's hard because, you know, when as a teacher, you know, you feel like you're pouring everything out for them. You're pouring your soul out for them. You're doing everything that you can.
They drop.
And they drop. Yeah. And and you know, again, even after 40 years, it's still hard.
It sucks.
It feels like a rejection. It just feels like you're being rejected. Like,
but
no matter what. And in the long run, you look back and I'll see people that'll say, you know, being at your school was one of the best things we ever did, and all that kind of, you know, and it's so they got something great out of it. You know? But it does kind of harden you, you know, and sometimes with
you get a little
relationships
callous to it. Yeah, you just
gets you some thick skin.
It does. Yeah.
Well, you have to. You have to. Otherwise, you'd spend all day in your office crying about the last person that left.
Yeah, I have black belts have been training with me for over 20 years. I'm like, you're still here?
Yeah.
I keep waiting for you
to quit. Yeah. That's so good.
And those are some of those the unexpected ones, like the ones you almost did or not expect, or that you did expect, or
you know,
either or.
That's the problem too. I think as a teacher now, like before, I always thought everybody could be a black belt. Like everybody walking through the door, you could be a black belt. Yeah. Now I don't feel that way at all anymore. Yeah. You know, I feel that way in the way that Buddhists greet each other. Like, I'm greeting the Buddha in you. Like, you will never be a Buddha. You know what I mean? Like, there's that somewhat possibility inside of your humanity that you might be able to have that light, but nobody's going to have that. That's impossible. Yeah. So I feel the same way. Like, I'm greeting the black belt in you, but you're probably not going to make it. Yeah. So, but again, you know, that doesn't mean they didn't get something out of the school. They enjoyed what they did. They learned some stuff, and you know, and sometimes life just, you know, I lose a lot of people that kids go off to college and things like that.
That's a rough one. Yeah. We've experienced a lot of that with, like, you get these great kids and it's like, you got to get to work because I know you're going to college in a couple of years. Like, get after it.
And have you experienced? We've experienced this. They get to black belt and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you're like, "What happened?"
Yeah, that's happened a couple of times, and that's weird. That's I don't. Well, you know, they're just, those are kind of merit badge people. You know, kind of your type A.
They're after
I got my black belt, like, and I'm I'm good.
Yeah, it's a good conversation piece. You know, that kind of thing. So and so. I guess all the but there is a big drop off still. Like, you know, like a very small percentage of people make it to first degree black belt, and then I think you could cut that number off to people that make it to second. You know, in half.
Easily.
So every degree of black belt is less and less and less, and from your school. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to compare this to like a cult,
Right.
but it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a good cult. It's a cult that's healthy for you, but you almost have that kind of like, I drank the Kool-Aid.
Right. Once you understand what it does for you in your life, you know, and then plus some of the people, you know, the people that are here are my best friends. You know, those are, you know, that's why I was telling you guys about the podcast. You know, I come on, you're my best friend. Don't tell me you liked it just because I'm your teacher.
Give me
I'm also
your friend.
Answer. I need your real feedback.
Well, hopefully they gave good feedback because you're still here. You're here.
Yeah.
And I see the pictures of you guys online with you and your Kenpo family. I mean, you guys seem pretty tight, really tight, and that's cool. Like, I see you guys doing, you know, posting pictures of training together, and I think hikes and all that other stuff.
You know, we talk about stuff, you know, like, to think it's kind of deeper, like about our families, about our kids, you know, but you know, it's not just surface stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just about the game last weekend. It's about what's your life like? What's going on with you? We all can kind of converse about
where are
that
you
stuff.
at?
Where
Yeah.
you at?
That's the coolest thing to me about martial arts in general. Like I've never been in the military. Tyler is currently, but I witnessed Tyler and another Army buddy talking one time. We were out hunting and
shooting dove. We were shooting dove season.
His Army buddy comes and they start having a conversation, and I'm like, that's a club I can't be a part of. Right.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You get some of your Kempo guys with you, and it's like you guys you belong together.
Right.
Like there's a camaraderie there that the average person probably never gets to experience unless they belong to something like that, or a religion or something that requires commitment and effort.
Yeah, I don't like talking martial arts to people that don't do it, or maybe
they won't understand.
Yeah, they don't. And it's usually nice of them. They're being nice, and they want to talk to me and ask about me, and I'll say a thing or two, and then I'll try to turn the conversation back around. Like, hey, what about you? What do you know?
Yeah.
Because I've been, and I get enough of it here because me and my guys, we talk about
well,
it.
It's like
outside of it.
It's like, I don't know if anybody golfs. I don't golf. I don't need another expensive hobby.
Yeah.
But like, if you ever listen to people talk about golf, they're obsessed with it.
Yes.
And it's like everything from the types of clubs to the shoes to the course and the greens and blah, 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 blah. You have to be a golf fanatic to like enjoy that. You have to be a martial arts fanatic to enjoy that. And it's like, if you're going to talk to a casual about it, it's
difficult.
Yeah. You're not going to understand.
Right. Yeah. You don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way with my non-martial arts friends. You just kind of you kind of keep it to like surface level talk a little bit, and then you try to shift the topic. Because it's just they need to experience it themselves and walk through those doors and train. To really be able to have the full breadth of that conversation.
It's like nobody at this table will ever understand what it's like to give birth.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Exactly.
Every woman will look at you and go, uh-huh.
Yeah. That really hurt.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah.
No matter how empathetic you are, they'll be like, no.
It's just not happening. Yeah. Well, hey, we're hitting our sweet spot. We're at an hour. I don't know what else you got going on tonight, and I don't want to interrupt anything else. If there's anything else you want to go over, say, or talk about, if you had any more questions,
just tell us so the audience knows when your tournaments are. They're January.
Yeah, they're. So we just put one. We always put one in the middle of May. The next one will be at the end of September, and then also at the end of January. And end of January is usually the bigger one because there's no baseball, soccer, other stuff, outdoors,
nothing to compete with you.
Right. So so those are the times that they are. Again, late September, late January, and mid-May.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone that's listening needs to, I highly recommend you come to Scott Halsey's tournaments.
They're a lot of fun.
Great competition, great group of people, and great family atmosphere. And yeah, I've had a great time going to them.
Good. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's important to us to know that people have had a good experience. So
yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, hey, friends, you heard it here. He's got 3 tournaments a year. Catch one. And you have a website too, right?
Yeah, reddingkarate.com.
Reddingkarate.com.
So you'll always see information.
You could sell that for a mint.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, reddingkarate.com. You can get more information on the tournaments there in Scott's school.
What's your social media pages?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Scott Halsey Karate is one of them. I know that.
Halsey Karate.
Halsey Karate.
Facebook, just my name, Scott Halsey, and Halsey Karate.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a Luddite when it comes to. I have people help me with my social media and the rest of the world.
That's good. It's a full-time job. It can be a full-time job if you're not careful. So we got our own social medias. Formless Pod. All of our social media can be found at the Formless Pod. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Our website is, you guessed it, theformlesspod.com. There will be more information about our seminar that we're planning for September 13th on the website shortly. Keep your peepers peeping and stay tuned.
Peek my head out.